What's up, everybody? It's Hardy Construction. You can find us at hardyconstruction.tumblr.com, youtube.com/hardyconstruction, as well as facebook.com/the Hardy Construction Videos Comp. And
James Cameron.
today's film is
Terminator, the Terminator.
Terminator from 1984, directed by James Cameron. Of course, my internet freezes up as soon as I say the title, so I can't read it off of IMDb. But
It's
essentially, a killer machine stalks a woman aided by another man from the future. Written by James Cameron, directed by James Cameron, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, Michael Biehn, Linda Hamilton, Paul Winfield, Lance Henriksen,
Which
and
one
a
is
bunch
Paul
of other
Winfield?
people. Paul Winfield was the African American cop. Yeah, he was also the very what's the phrase? What's the right phrase for somebody?
What?
I can't use the right phrase.
Don't worry.
He was one of the guys on 227, I believe. I think he was on 227. He was like one of those old stalwart, like sort of black actors from the 70s on a lot of TV shows and stuff like that. Anyway,
Okay.
Here goes the IMDb synopsis. A human-looking indestructible cyborg is sent from 2029 to 1984 to assassinate a waitress whose unborn son will lead humanity in a war against the machines, while a soldier from that war is sent to protect her at all costs. Wow, that's a lot better than what I said. The Terminator. Anyway, so this film, Danny's been talking about wanting to review this film for the longest time, and I was like, the Terminator.
I think this counts as horror. I honestly do, because the first one, at least, not the other ones, because it feels like a horror movie.
Essentially, it is a horror film. When I was reading the trivia, I was like, yes, it does make sense. It is an unstoppable killer that has a lot of jump scare elements to it, and the undying sort of killer that keeps coming back towards
And it's definitely creepy, and the music is creepy. Like the second one's like an action movie, but this one is
Linda Hamilton, I don't know, I can't say her name right, is playing Sarah Connor, and she is sort of the final girl, the one that has to escape the Terminator, although she is aided by a guy, Kyle Reese, played by Michael Biehn. You also remember him from Aliens.
He's Hicks, and also actually one of the cops is in Aliens is Bishop.
Yes, that would be...
I don't know the actor's name, but he's Bishop in Aliens.
That's Lance Henriksen, yes. Lance Henriksen, who's also in the short-lived Fox series Millennium. He's a great actor. He was Bishop from the Aliens franchise, and even best Alien vs. Predator. Anyway, why did you pick the Terminator? Because you were obsessed with watching this movie.
My grandpa used to really love the Terminators movies, like the first and second one, and we would just be like a family tradition to always watch it at every holiday. So,
was it not just like an innate fear of a larger German man trying to exterminate?
That's true, and he's Austrian, which is even more appropriate.
It's true. That's probably in the original. I bet you there's
We'd
lot of...
watch it on Passover, and when we saw him lose, we'd be cheering. No,
there was a lot of. I bet you there was a lot of cut scenes where he's like, "You should be exterminated for your beliefs and your bloodline," and they're like, and James Cameron's like, "What are you talking about? That's not in the script. I got to say what I have to say.
Or
this is the truth."
He'd let him say it, but he would just turn off the mics, so like Arnold didn't know,
Anyway, he's like, "Where's my friend Goebbels?" Anyway, so the Terminator. I don't know why you didn't pick the far superior Terminator Genesis film. Actually, surprisingly, I've never seen the Terminator 1. I've never seen the Terminator 1 fully. I've seen... I don't know. I think by all the... I think I have. I think I've seen most of 2. I think I've seen 2, like, when you watch a movie in bits and pieces over the years so many times that
you've seen the movie. You should really watch 2 in full. It's a great
movie. I
will.
I've seen Terminator. Surprisingly, I've seen the shittier versions of the movies. I saw Terminator 3 in the theater.
That's not that bad. I like that. Everybody gives it such a bad rap. I liked it. Whatever.
I like the car chase scene. That was great. Terminator. What was the one where they were in the war? Terminator.
That's the one with Christian Bale, right?
Yeah, the one where Christian Bale went insane on a lighting guy in the background.
Yeah, I never saw that one. I never saw the newest one. I have no real interest. I
Terminator
probably will.
Genesis, I have no interest in seeing Terminator Genesis, and I feel bad because Arnold Schwarzenegger really like wants to be back in cinema, but
Yeah.
his stint of being a governor basically reset his standing in Hollywood, so he can't really be in films anymore that
Yep.
make a lot of money for
Well,
some
he's
reason.
pretty
He's
fucking
trying,
old
but
too. I mean, how
yeah,
old
I
is he?
mean that. It's the same with Stallone. I mean, these guys try to recapture their past efforts, and it's just not possible.
Right.
Which shows you time is a bitch.
Actually, he's not that old. He's only 68.
Is he? Oh, I thought he was much older. Well, whatever. He's still. You can't really believe. I know. I think I was watching parts of. I couldn't sit through all. I saw Expendables 1. Didn't bother with part 2. I only saw the parts with Van Damme for part 2, which was good.
It seems
And
too kitschy
not the
to
movie,
me.
just Van Damme.
Not really,
Yeah,
it's like a gimmicky sort of thing.
I felt sad that Mel Gibson was had to be in Expendables 3. He's good, and he shouldn't be in an Expendables film, you know.
Well,
And
he
originally
lost. He lost all his creds after his little incidents.
Yeah, could you imagine him as the Terminator? He would have said much worse stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
Even worse than Schwarzenegger. But originally, he actually was supposed. They were looking for him to play the Terminator in this one.
Mel
so
Gibson, really?
That's crazy.
I'm
Yeah,
glad,
a lot of
I'm
people
glad
actually
that didn't happen because
take a guess. Take a guess. The most nicest guy in the world was actually supposed to be in this film, which would be O.J. Simpson. Originally, O.J. Simpson was supposed to be the Terminator.
Really?
Can you believe that?
There would be a dramatic scene of him putting on gloves,
In the future war,
and
like
then
in
he'd
the
be
year
chasing them.
2029.
He'd be chasing them in a what was the type of car he was
Bruno
in?
Magli shoes.
No, the car that he drove away and.
Oh, the white Bronco.
Yeah, he'd be chasing in a white Bronco.
he gets Sarah Connor. He just okay. I don't want to get into the domestic abuse comedy right now.
Yeah,
but
right.
yeah. Anyway, so yeah, OJ. But then eventually they just decided to go with Schwarzenegger. James Cameron, surprisingly, he is a lucky fellow. He was homeless when he wrote the script for this film.
Really?
And yeah, he just had gotten off of doing Piranha 2: The Spawning. So you got to take I think it was a minimal hit, and took a lot of faith, I guess, in his script that people gave him the money. It was funny
He
because
wrote it with that the lady Gail Ann Hurd.
Gail Ann Hurd.
And
Yeah,
they
I always
married
forgot
for
if
a
that
while.
was. Oh, was he married to? Yeah, because Gail Ann Hurd, I think, produced a lot of his first films. That's sort of like a lot of directors do that nowadays. Like, I believe Christopher Nolan's wife produces everything, and Zack Snyder's wife
That's cool.
produces
It's like a
everything he does.
partnership that works.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, anyway, so James Cameron obviously went on to go onto greater, bigger things, and I felt like a lot of the story elements in this film that he couldn't do in this first film, he decided to put in the sequel, which was in terms of scope and production, it was far superior. But we're going to be focusing on the Terminator 1984 today. So, Denny, how does this movie start out?
You get to see a little post-apocalyptic glimpse of the future with the the machines basically killing people and flying around and shit, which is pretty cool. I mean, especially that this was made back then, and they did like a really good job at showing like the future and like little clips and stuff.
And it's cool because the stuff actually still looks like toys, like model toys and everything, but it's still cool. Like, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like how you know how we watch those Japanese sort of like Zaram. You know how it has that weird sort of cheap look, but it still is cool within the universe itself.
Yeah, no, I love
Like
that
it has
kind of
that
feeling.
it has that sort of feel to it. And I think that it worked for the movie. I mean, for a very low budget, it was Orion Pictures put the money behind this, and Orion was if you were in the 80s, there were a lot of films released by Orion, whether they're good or bad. It's up to
I hope
your
they
choice.
made a lot of
released
money.
Amadeus. They made Amadeus. I'm sure they made a lot of money with this movie, but the company went bankrupt, I believe. Anyway, which pissed me off about when I was watching this, like. I was watching, I was like, wow, how cool, because it's all night, and you see these huge Terminator, like, machines just, rolling over the skulls of humans and stuff like that.
Right.
And, just destroy, and it's like a war, and I mean, and you can tell it's done on a low budget, but it still looks cool for what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remember watching, like, I went to the theater, and I saw Terminator Salvation, that's the one with Christian Bale, and I was like, how come they couldn't, like, that's a movie, obviously,
Because
with...
they're not relying on good script and stuff and like craftsmanship. They're relying on having lots of money for CGI.
I mean, they had. I mean, they must have seen the first film, right? That's why they were making the fourth film in the
Yeah, but
franchise.
when they make these movies, they don't give a shit about like the legacy or anything. They're just trying to make money.
Because the fourth film was basically. I think the if anything, people wanted to jump from. They wanted to jump from Terminator 2 into the future war, and when Terminator 3 didn't do that, a lot of people were like, "Oh man, who gives?" Terminator 3 was obviously just a rehash of Terminator 2 with two robots fighting each other, and
Yeah, but
Schwarzenegger dying again.
they were pretty badass robots. I liked it. Whatever. Everybody gives a shit.
I'm just saying that people were like, "Okay, let's get to the future war. I want to see the future war." And when Terminator 3 didn't do that, and it was just more like, let's get John Connor out of here. You know, it was more like, oh, come on, we just saw that in the second one. Want to see the future war where John Connor's already, you know, a military guy kicking the shit out of people.
Yeah.
And when Terminator Salvation came out, I was like, what the fuck is this? For the most part, it was mostly in the daylight too, which is sort of boring, and it looked like. I mean, it was a high-budget film, but it looked cheap. Like, it just looked like, oh, we only have one Terminator here. We only have one car that's destroyed here. Like, it looked like they shot it, you know, in, like, Nevada, the desert and stuff.
Right.
Because, like, of course, the destroyed world always looks like Nevada. You can never see destroyed buildings and shit, only in, like, far shots. And then the Terminators, you never saw Salvation, right? Did you? Or?
No, I didn't see any of the ones after 3.
And Cyberdyne was now like a human. I mean, not a human. Like a robot host. Like there was a main brain of Cyberdyne, which I can understand if they do that. But they did the same shit. I guess they did with. I guess people were complaining about Star Trek with the Borg. Like, you know how the Borg is supposed to be all like one mind together.
Okay.
And the Borg had a queen, which like totally went against, I guess, what the Borg thing is, and the Cyberdyne had that. It was basically. Who was Tim Burton's ex-wife? The one that he just divorced?
Oh, Marla Singer from Fight Club?
Right, Marla Singer, whatever the actress's name was. She was like the human
Helena
equivalent
Bonham
of... Helena Bonham Carter was the equivalent of Cyberdyne, and she was trying to be all evil. And I was like, what is this about? I mean, really, I can... When you talk about Terminator 1 and 2, all you can do is complain about the rest of the sequels, but I don't want to do that right now.
Yeah.
But
Terminator 1 in and of itself is a wonderful movie, in my opinion. I don't think.
Yeah,
it's
fun.
great.
It's a fun. This is just like the club that is in the film Tech Noir. That is the genre that Cameron wanted to get into when he made this. That's why he considers films like what was the one with Harrison Ford that's going to get a sequel now?
Blade Runner.
Blade Runner, right?
I love
that would be
Blade
Tech
Runner.
Noir because it's sort of a noir film within some sort of weird techie sort of age to it.
Yeah.
And that's what this is. But people saw it mostly as an action film. And he decided, fuck it, I'll just continue making action films. This is all stuff I'm reading off the trivia off of the IMDb. And anyway, so Schwarzenegger... Anyway, we see the future war. Cuts to current time, a.k.a. 1984. What's going on?
Terminator is now... Well, yeah, Arnold
Kyle,
is now in... he pops into the future, like time travels or whatever.
A cameo by who?
Who? Which one?
Hudson from Aliens, which would be Bill Paxton, is one of the punkers.
Oh shit! I didn't even make
with
that
the spiked
connection.
hair. Yeah, with the spiked hair and the buck tooth.
Wow.
He had a line in his suit, and also even better was a future Shao Kahn from Mortal Kombat 2 Annihilation, which would be Brian.
Yeah.
I forgot that guy's
Wonderful.
name. Yeah, Brian. Brian. Is it Brian? What the hell is his name? Whatever the guy's name, Brian Thompson, that guy. Yeah, I was like, wow, look, it's Shao Kahn. That's the best actor in the film. Anyway, so the Terminator kills both of those guys. You think he killed that third guy and took his jacket, or he just let him be good?
He probably like molested him or something and let him live traumatized.
That scene was actually redone in Genesis. So if you want to see that, they actually had a digitally de-aged Schwarzenegger, or maybe they did it with like
Benjamin Button.
They just did a CGI complete. Because I remember watching the Genesis one when they have the CGI Schwarzenegger come out, and I was like, "That's a cartoon. He's fighting a cartoon. It's not.
Right.
It's not like even a." Because have you seen Civil War? You haven't seen Civil War yet, right?
Not yet. I still have to. Don't.
There's
say
a
it, though.
scene there's so like there are a lot of things now, which is interesting, is that Hollywood has very good de-aging techniques with their actors. Because like if you saw, let's say, X-Men: The Last Stand, when they had Professor X and Magneto, there's a scene when they first meet Psylocke, and they de-aged the actors, and it looked pretty cool, but it was still kind of early technology, even for that time. And in Civil War, they did a scene with a 16-year-old or 17-year-old Robert Downey Jr., and it's really unsettling because it looks like, I'm not kidding. What they must have done is they must have had like a 17-year-old kid who had like a green mask on, and then they just digitally put a very young
that's what
Robert
they did
Downey
in
Jr.
that whole Benjamin Button movie is like that.
I couldn't stand the graphics in that movie. Actually, that was the one, like, David Finch. I love David Finch. I watch every film of his.
Yeah.
I think I have. Even Alien 3, so yikes. And he's, like, that one was, like, you could tell that was Fincher going, I won an Oscar. Let me make this movie about Oscars. And I was like, what the fuck is this movie? But, yeah, they did have that effect in there, too. And it was a decent effect. That movie, I was like, oh, no. But anyway, they redo the scene in Genesis, and obviously they use different actors, and it's just so like shitty. It's just like, I just saw the clip, I didn't see the film. I haven't seen Genesis, no interest in watching it.
The more you talk about it, the less I want to see it.
So Schwarzenegger's Terminator, the T-800, gets the suit. An interesting, when I was reading the trivia here, the Terminators actually have to eat because it has human skin on them, like actual skin grown by Cyberdyne to form, this look. Because it's pretty cool how Kyle Reese explains how they were Terminators, earlier Terminators that had rubber skin, and you can tell it was like, oh look,
they could tell because dogs bark at them basically. Now,
yeah, and so they had it was so fun. Oh, another trivia thing is the dog that barks at Schwarzenegger when he goes to the hotel is actually James Cameron's dog.
Oh.
And the dog's name was Wolfie, and I think Wolfie was the name of the dog of John
Terminator
Connor
2.
in Part 2. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. James Cameron must have loved that fucking dog.
Yeah.
Anyway, so at the same time, but the funniest part about that is when the Terminator comes out, they have like, there's only 2 black guys in this film. Oh, well, there's 3 black guys, and 2 of them are mostly like, holy shit, and they run out the way.
Yeah, in the beginning guy,
the first
and
one,
then the cop.
And I'm pretty sure the guy, that's what I mean. He's the third one that actually does something. But the guy in the truck, the first black dude in the truck, like I'm pretty sure he was in what movie was it? I think he was in Weird Science, in the scene where the 2 white guys get drunk with all the black people, and they're trying to act like brothers. It's one of the greatest movies of all time. You really have to see it. And I was like, hey, that's the guy from Weird Science. And then the other one was when the Terminator was walking down. Somebody was walking down the street. I think it was a Terminator. And then the black guy goes, damn! Like, he just runs off. I was laughing my ass off. Like, James Cameron was like, yes, very good. And he's just like, that's all he cares about.
Paxton's in that.
In which one? In Weird Science? Oh, yeah, he's Chet. He's great.
Look, we got a whole connection here going.
So Kyle Reese also comes out, and I was surprised.
Hicks and aliens.
You think he took that bum's pants? Like, what was going on with the pants?
The cops at one point are like, he's rabbiting, and I think I tried to look up
running,
what that
right?
meant, and
I would assume that means like run like a rabbit.
I think it means something.
Unless he was having sex with.
Like,
maybe that too. But yeah, I was actually very surprised for a movie from the 80s where it was a homeless guy with a drink, and he saw something crazy, and he didn't look at his drink. You know, when they did that a lot.
Yeah.
They did that a lot in the 80s for some reason.
I mean, I've drank plenty of times. I've never hallucinated from it.
I'm sure there are hallucinate. You drink enough, you could see some weird shit.
I guess.
I don't know. I guess not. Anyway, so we're introduced to a Sarah Connor who I think is 19 in the film. I thought she was a little older, but who is Sarah Connor?
She is John Connor's mommy, and she is the target for the Terminator. And also, she is. I just always tie her up with Children of the Corn, like, because it's the same actress.
She was in that movie, right? Is that,
yeah. I always try to imagine that, like, as soon as this is over, she drives away and like goes there.
It was so interesting to see the jump because I've only known the Sarah Connor character obviously from Terminator 2. There was also the Terminator 2, the TV show that people speak highly of.
I never saw that actually.
Which was Queen Cersei playing Linda Hamilton's character.
I didn't know that actually. Oh.
And then eventually Daenerys played her in the 5th movie, which was no good. Anyway, so Linda Hamilton, it was so funny because she's like a total badass in Part 2, and in Part 1 she's like scared shitless, which makes sense, and it's good to see how her character went from that leap to the second one. And she eventually, she hears word that there's Sarah Connors all around the I guess they're in Los Angeles, right? I assume they're in Los
Is
Angeles.
it Los Angeles? I don't know.
I don't know. Okay, they're in some city.
Yeah, Los Angeles. It is Los Angeles.
And Sarah Connors are getting killed. The Terminator's coming in.
Sarah Connors left and right.
Apparently, in the original script, there was detail where the Terminator would see that Sarah Connor had metal pins in her leg due to an accident, and the Terminators had to make sure it was her. So but they didn't know when she had this accident. Apparently, it's at the end of the film. When she gets the shrapnel in her leg.
Right.
So the Terminators are trying to figure out when she was. So they obviously got to her before she got her injury. And there was supposed to be a scene where the Terminator would open up the legs and it would be gory and stuff. So I guess they really toned down the horror elements of the film.
I was reading that because with the casting of Arnold Schwarzenegger, a lot of the horror stuff didn't work or something, and it became more like what it is.
Maybe in Israel, it's like the worst horror film ever made. They were just like this. It's my second Nazi joke. How'd you like that? So Kyle Reese eventually hooks up with Sarah Connor. Sarah Connor had a roommate who had a problem listening to headphones 24/7.
Oh, she's so annoying. Oh god.
Yeah, those 80s girls, right? You hate 80s girls.
What's the aesthetic of like chewing gum and looking stupid? I don't understand that.
This is what James Cameron thought some women did in the 80s. So right. I'm sure no woman actually did this in real life. Yeah, Ginger is essentially a cartoon character, and she was there with her boyfriend.
Oh,
and apparently the guy that breaks up the date with Sarah Connor was James Cameron on the phone, so that's pretty interesting.
Okay.
He was like, eventually James Cameron went on to marry Linda Hamilton. I think he does a thing where he marries...
They were married for like 2 years, and I think she won like $50 million from him.
Did she? Wow. Because apparently he's like a real pain. There was that big like Oscar... What was that Oscar... joke where he dated he married Catherine Bigelow, I believe. So Catherine Bigelow, who wrote Near Dark, and she wrote The Hurt Locker. She wrote a lot of cool movies, and she directed some cool movies.
Okay.
And she was married to him for a while, and I forget, somebody said, she won the Oscar for The Hurt Locker, but she should get more awards for just being married to James Cameron. And
Is he like a real asshole? I don't know.
Apparently, he's a real pain in the ass to work for. Like, if you sit down on set, he automatically fires you, stuff like that, and he yells at people and stuff like that. But he wants to keep...
he makes good movies, but...
Yeah, that's right. So, if you see his films, you can obviously see that he's like, a stern ship master, or ship captain. I mean, that's the same thing. Like, if you see, if you ever look at the behind-the-scenes stuff of what's his name? I just said his name, David Fincher.
Yeah.
But he looks like he's sort of a sarcastic, so he's sort of funny, but he's also very you don't want to fuck with these people. So James Cameron.
I heard Kubrick and Oliver Stone and all of the big ones are crazy people, basically.
Yeah. So that's what you got to deal with when we're making these films, and it's so funny because this film tonally feels different from a lot of Cameron's film. It feels like he's still learning his footing with this film. It's still a great film.
It's not as big as, but I think that's
right. That's what it is. Yeah, that's definitely it. It's definitely not as slick as the other films, and you can see where it's not because he's painstakingly detail-centric with having continuity in his films, I would assume, from everything else I remember, because it's just, his movies are very big, very clean, movies like Avatar, stuff like that. Avatar wasn't my favorite film.
He did The Abyss, that's a good one.
It upsets me a little bit that Avatar is now the focus of his film life now. There's going to be 5 fucking Avatar movies. 4 more Avatar movies. Good.
Yeah.
He's good with sequels, obviously. He did Aliens, and he also did this one. Schwarzenegger was off to make Conan the Destroyer, that piece of shit. Right. And I don't know if it's a piece of shit, it's alright. And the company was like, fuck, we need Schwarzenegger, so we'll wait. And Cameron was like, oh, shit. So while he was waiting, he wrote fucking Aliens. So that was pretty good. I guess that gave him time to do Aliens. And Schwarzenegger was like, yeah. And anyway, so back to the film. This is a film where everybody knows it's basically just running away from a robot. But so we're just filling in time. Yeah. But what is Sarah Connor's relationship with Kyle Reese?
Well, at first she thinks that he's gonna kill her, but he convinces her, I suppose, after he shoots a thing like a million times and it keeps getting back up, and, and then I love when they go to the jail and like the fucking asshole psychologist is there, and that guy is in all three of the first movies actually. What the hell is his name? Dr. Silberman, and he's just such a.
That's
I love
Earl
the whole
Bowen,
scene
right?
where he's like interrogating him and stuff, and she's like in the place, and then the Terminator comes back and is like killing everybody. It's great.
I thought it was so funny that James Cameron just let that character live. He just walks out. Like I was like, I would be sure that they'd make a character like this that people hate. That he's, you know what I mean? He just kind of walks out without even looking at the robot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know why they made it such a fact that he didn't see the robot coming. It's not like you'd look at a guy with dark shades and a jacket and be like,
he was playing a long game with that
God.
guy because he fucks him up in the second and third one.
That's true. In the third one, yes, he's there for complete. That's the thing I like about Terminator 3 is that it was all for comedic effect. Like the whole film was like, oh, let's laugh at this, and he's like showing up and he puts on
his
these
scene
big.
was definitely funny, but I mean, besides that, it was pretty. I don't know why everybody hates.
That's true, and he
so
puts on those big star glasses. Those are hilarious. I mean, come on.
Oh,
that's
come on!
And
That's
how
like
he explains
that's
having
like literally
sex to the.
1 second of the movie.
I will say this: the blonde Terminator was hot in that movie. She was hot.
She was. I would let
yeah,
her
so
shapeshift into me.
terminate you, sperminate you. So anyway, Kyle Reese has fallen in love with Sarah Connor from the future, from a photo of her. Do you think
That's creepy
like,
though. If I said
Kyle
that,
Reese-
if I looked at a picture of somebody in OkCupid and I met them and I'm telling them I'm in love with them and shit, they'd like call the cops on me.
But he was so inspired by her. It's almost like looking at a photo of John Adams and being like, "Wow, I'm so inspired by you, John Adams. I want to fuck you. I want
Right.
to be the second president and fuck me in the ass." He is in love with her. That was that's an interesting thing. I guess he was also a virgin, so good for him. I can imagine like
I guess you don't get
John-
a chance to get laid very much when you're constantly fighting machines.
So I guess we do find out John Connor did know that he got his dad. That was his dad. He was sending into the past because I was waiting. I was like, wouldn't he, just randomly do this? It's a bizarre sort of.
Imagine he
weird
like winks
circular
and
time
hands him
thing.
a condom.
No, why would he? Then he wouldn't exist.
Oh, that's true. That's true. He winks and hands him like a butt plug.
He hands him sex oils and stuff, and he goes, "What's
Yeah,
this
right,
for?"
right. Hands him,
You'll
like,
know. And he's like
lubrications.
elbowing him. It's funny. Imagine this was all a long con. It was all fake. Like Kyle Reese was just wanting to get laid in the past because he couldn't get pussy in the future.
Right.
And he built the Terminator and sent it into the future. He's like, I need to get some past pussy now because like women probably have evolved and have penises too because of some
Do you
genetic
think
fuck
that's
up.
possible? I guess so. I mean, we all start as women in the fetus.
That's true. So he was like, I gotta fuck some girls now. And he goes, and you see him like jerking off in the time sphere.
You know, it's
and he
weird.
falls, that's why he fell.
I'm looking at this lady, Gal Ann Hurd. She kind of looks like some weird version of Cersei, of Queen Cersei.
Oh,
Like,
does she?
Her
Oh.
face has like a Lena Headey, or however you say her name, kind of look to it. Yeah, a little bit.
Is that like the resting bitch face sort of look to it?
Maybe it's the
I've
squinty,
got that, so it's
squinty
not
eye
making-
kind of thing.
I can see that. She looks like Anna Wintour actually to me, but it's another thing. I have resting bitch face too, so I can say that. It wasn't a gender thing. The whole film for the rest of it is just Kyle Reese and Sarah Connor on the run from the Terminator. How would you explain Schwarzenegger's performance in this film?
He's, I mean, I've seen it so many times, it's hard to say, but I think, he's the Terminator. He's perfect at it.
He's great in this. He's very
It's a
iconic,
creepy,
and they
stiff
said,
kind of thing.
yeah, he's good. I mean, he actually learned how to do a lot of good guns shit. Like he trained himself gun weapons wise.
I was reading that he couldn't say the line "I'll be back" and shit, and he had to like.
Yeah, no, he didn't want to say "I'll be back" because he was trying to, he's from Austria and he was trying to learn English
He couldn't say
perfectly
"I'll."
at the time. Right, it was supposed to be "I will be back,"
Yeah.
and he was going to say that line. That's like the major
I will be
argument
back.
that he and Cameron had. He goes, "I will be back." He wanted to say that, but Cameron was like, "No, I'll be back," and he thought "I'll," the word "I'll" or the phrase "I'll" is feminine. But and
only
then,
girly,
Cam-
only girly men say "I'll."
And apparently Cameron said, "Listen, I don't tell you how to act, so don't tell me how to write." So he was like, "Oh, Shaisa, I'll say what you want me to say." That's me doing. Jesus, I'm just doing McBain from The Simpsons.
Right.
Yeah, so Schwarzenegger is pretty awesome as the Terminator. He wanted to actually play Kyle Reese, but Cameron had to convince him. He was like, "Listen, the Terminator is the star of the film." So it's pretty neat that, and he had like 10 less words in this one than he did in Conan. And I was like, I thought he spoke a lot in Conan, but I guess he didn't.
Yeah, he says basically nothing in this. And then there's a bunch where he's talking where it's another guy's voice talking.
That's funny when he just does like the other people. I bet you people were like in the theater going, "What the fuck is this?" But they were like, "Oh, that's pretty neat." I mean, the film is a bit ahead of its time, but I'm sure there's a lot of movies that did this sort of like.
Well, Hardware did this kind of thing.
That's true, and apparently they got sued the shit out of them by Harlan Ellison, the science fiction writer. Because apparently he wrote 2 episodes of not the X-Files. I'm sorry, he was able to jump through time. No, Harlan Ellison wrote 2 episodes of The Twilight Zone, I believe, or is it The Outer Limits? Might be Outer Limits. Because Outer Limits is science fiction, where he did something with the glass hand and some other fucking episode where it sort of had this sort of, I guess, robot sort of thing to it. And
it's not like an original idea, like. There's a million fucking things.
Yeah, but maybe it was close enough that he was... Because they won the suit. Harlan Ellison actually won the suit. And, because the version that I saw, it said with a nod or something towards Harlan Ellison. So...
Really?
I guess he was like... And James Cameron was like... Fuck that. James Cameron said he didn't rip off of him. But you can probably see from Avatar, like... if Avatar people always say that's fucking Pocahontas or that's the
I just hate
Last
that
of the
kind
Mohicans.
of shit. It's
but the storyline is the storyline is so generic that you're like, how could it not? I mean, everything is fucking pretty much a pastiche of something else.
This is literally a slasher film, basically, but with a robot, pretty much. I mean,
instead of knives, is with guns, right? Yeah. And let me ask you a question. You're sort of a white person, right? Like if somebody just saw you, you'd be considered a white person, right? Right, because do white people have sex like they do in this film? Because Sarah, it was real passionate. Like Sarah Connor and Kyle Reese, like they're having really staged sex, and it's just like it feels so fake. I mean, obviously, if you see what people really do when they have sex, they look really bizarre. But this
I don't even
want to
know.
Bizarre.
I don't want to know what I look like. I'm disgusted by myself. Like, no way.
I imagine you crossing your eyes and
I'm just the worst.
Doing boogaloo breakdancing and shit. But the sex scene, I guess, which it is actual. Somebody had said on IMDb it was the first time a sex scene actually meant something in a film. Like it actually made sense to be in a movie.
Right. It wasn't just thrown in to look at boobs.
He's shooting some John Connor seed into Sarah Connor.
Right.
And it was weird. She didn't take the Sarah Reese name, right? Wouldn't it be John Reese? But whatever. I guess he felt like an asshole. He was like,
well, they didn't get married.
You think if he would have changed his name, but still, you think he would have changed his name to Kyle Reese? If he would have changed his name
Connor.
to like John Reese, like John Reese would have been a fashion designer in the future instead of being like a robot.
Or imagine
fighter.
like they get together and he doesn't die as like an alternate one, and then it's just like the whole movie is just them living like a really boring life, and like it's not the end of the world, and they just like die of old age.
That'd be an interesting film. That's probably like an indie comedy version of a movie.
Right.
But the cops, Lieutenant Ed Traxler and Detective Hal Vukovich, Lance Henrik and Paul Winfield, respectively.
What about
I
them?
switched the name. It was weird to see these actors who I've seen in a lot of stuff, and they're sort of like bit part characters here. They're basically playing the guys that don't believe what the fuck's going on, and then they're thrust into this big giant cop shootout, and then that's it. They're done for. And I was waiting to see a little bit more from them, but I guess since we had Kyle Reese, we didn't necessarily need them.
They're like so iconic in my mind, but it's just because I've seen the movie like 100 times, But
Have you ever seen a lot of movies where they kill cops, like a lot of them at one time? Unless it's like an action film, maybe like Die Hard or some shit like that. But I think the only other film like there's another.
Lethal Weapon. I believe they blow up a thing of cops at one point. Lethal Weapon 2, maybe.
The only other horror film that I could think of that has like so many cops getting killed, like literally, like I've only seen mostly this part of this film. It was called Maniac Cop, and it's actually 20 times. It's 20 times worse. It might have been Maniac Cop 2. No, I think it was Maniac Cop 1. Like, you know how they just shoot, the Terminator comes in, he just blasts all these cops away in this one?
Right.
In Maniac Cop, I mean, it's almost like pornographic. Like, I'm not kidding. Like,
we should review that.
it's it has Bruce Campbell in it. But the cop, like the Maniac Cop, walks into a precinct, and you know how there's like miniature, I mean, they have their own like little desks and little
offices,
rooms, offices. Like the Maniac Cop is just walking through the walls and blast. And I swear to God, there's like 50 cops,
is he
100
like
cops that get killed in that
supernatural
one.
in Maniac Cop?
I guess he is. Yeah, I think he was a cop that gets killed in a shower, and he comes back. He does
kills all the other
movie.
cops. Why does he kill the other cops?
I have no clue. Maybe because the cops covered up that he got killed by other cops or somebody. I don't know, but it's just a hilarious scene. It's just like it's porn for people that hate police officers. If you want to see that, that's called Maniac Cop. It's like just him blasting away police officers. It's like bizarre to watch.
Right.
Anyway, I don't know why I got on that edge, but yeah. So the cops here are sort of useless, other than to be cannon fodder, and it leads to the large sort of finale at the end. What did you think about the feeling of the film? Did it feel like a tech noir? Did it feel like a?
No, it totally has that same kind of Blade Runner feeling to it. Like,
okay, without the future stuff.
I mean, it makes me like sad for like I miss society when it used to feel like that. Maybe, or maybe it never felt like that. But maybe I just always thought it did because I like watched movies like this as a kid. But yeah, like now everything like I don't know, everything was like grittier and like dirtier back then or something.
Yeah,
like, now
such a nostalgic.
Like, now everything like
you miss the days
like
of getting.
Bank.
You're afraid of you're missing the days that you were afraid to walk out on the street and not get stabbed. It's just
no, it's not like that. That's not like that was never like that. Really, that's like a cartoon version of it. But like just the idea of like the cop office where it's like a bunch of like phones ringing and like they're all just like drinking coffee and smoking cigarettes. Like I feel like that would never happen now. Or something.
I was really disgusted by the guy smoking cigarettes and chewing gum at the same time. That was really disturbing to me.
Yeah, right.
But it was also funny because I thought of how weird it must be, like, and it's not to demean women or say anything lesser than them, but when Linda Hamilton's inside the parking lot and she's just looking around in the dark, God, men are psychopaths. But go ahead. What did you? So the ending of the film with the big car. There's a lot of car chases in this film for a limited budget, which is pretty neat.
Yeah, nice truck chase scene too. I love, when the fucking truck. That was probably their whole budget, honestly, when the truck exploded. And it's setting fire to like the dumpster and shit. And that's where originally they
wanted the movie to end, right there.
That would
and have Kyle Reese live, but James Cameron was like, "Listen, we need that ending," so he put that ending in with the Terminator continuing after her, and it worked out. I think the movie's good. It's a standard action horror film.
And that's where they get the skeleton pieces to make Skynet in the second movie,
right? Which is like a total weird sort of backwards ass time fucked up infinity thing, because
where did it start?
Whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
I enjoyed it. It's a great film. I give this movie probably a 9. Yeah, for the film it is. I'll give it a 9 out of 10. Mm-hmm. A 9 out of 10. Seeing a large robot man walking through the motel parking lot, and you're about to get into your car when another guy pulls you out of your car and steals your car.
Okay. I'm going to give this a 10 out of 10. Hanging out with your friends, looking at a telescope, and a naked man walks up to you, and you just laugh and make jokes about it instead of being freaked out by this obvious psychopath.
Yep. That was pretty cool. They must have been seeing some cool stuff with that telescope. With that, Danny, what's the final word?
Green olives with lemon zest.
The horror deconstruction.